Alright, what is going on, guys? I am TJ, bringing you a brand new video on my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the Wildcard weekend and what went down. If you guys watched my predictions for the playoffs and you remember my picks, if you don't, go check it out. It's a pretty good video. I was really impressed with the thumbnail and how well I did there. But if you guys didn't watch Wildcard weekend, or I mean, why wouldn't you? It's the best. It's like one of the best sports weekends, one of the most underrated sports weekends of the entire sports season: football, basketball, baseball, all that type of stuff. But if you didn't see my video, I went 1 for 4 on the weekend. The only game I got right was the first game when the Colts played the Texans. I predicted the Colts were going to win, and they did. The second game after that was Cowboys Seahawks, and I predicted the Seahawks to win, and they did not. The next day game was the Ravens and Chargers. I predicted the Ravens to win, and I had them in my AFC Championship game, and they lost. And the worst loss of the weekend, loser of the weekend award goes to Cody Parkey for absolutely blowing that game-winning field goal. He made the first one, then Doug Peterson said, you know what, give me a timeout, I'm gonna ice him. He iced him, and he hit the crossbar. He hit the crossbar 6 times during the season that year, 4 times in Week 10 against the Lions. That just like, there was supposedly a report that during the offseason he practiced his kicking by hitting telephone poles and power lines and other stuff like that. So he was aiming at poles, at things that look like the upright. So I guess his practice paid off because he ended up hitting the thing that he had been practicing hitting all summer, and he's guaranteed like $3.5 million. And Bears fans aren't too happy with him, but Eagles fans were Venmoing him this morning like, you made my year, you know, go Eagles, fly, stuff like that. But diving deeper into the games, we'll go in order. The Colts game I thought was a pretty good game. I really did like watching it for about 10 minutes, and then the rest of the game it was just pretty much a blowout. The Texans did not play good. The Colts played amazing. Marlon Mack went off. Andrew Luck didn't even play his best game. T.Y. Hilton showed up in the clown mask, and he balled out. He always balls out against the Texans in Houston. He had another big game. The offense for the Texans just wasn't really clicking. Deshaun Watson didn't have a lot of time to get set up and to make multiple reads. When you think about it, Demaryius Thomas tore his Achilles, Will Fuller has an ACL, so they're really relying on Kiki QT and DeAndre Hopkins to go out there and make plays and win them the game. And unfortunately, they just didn't have enough weapons, and they didn't have enough offensive line help to do so. And Quentin Nelson looks like an absolute man, all right? Dude's first-team All-Pro, the 6th overall pick in the draft. I said it in a lot of my mock drafts that I thought that him and Saquon were 1A and 1B for talent in terms of, you know, I didn't like do a big board video last year, but in terms of players in the draft, I thought they were the best 2 players, or like 1A and 1B. They were just as good as one was just as good as the other. And Quentin Nelson played like that the entire season, and he showed it against Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, DJ Reader, the inside linebackers of the Houston Texans. He played like a beast, and so did the rest of that offensive line, and that's why they won. And now they're going on to play the Chiefs. I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't scared. The Chiefs are such a bad team defensively. It gets under my skin. And the Colts were an offensive powerhouse last game against a pretty good Texans defense who has the same issues as the Chiefs do in terms of like, they've got a lot of talent, but they just can't seem to put that talent together and, you know, have them play insanely well. Like, they've got dudes like Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt, DJ Reed. I mentioned their names a lot. On the back end, they've got some good safety play. Justin Reed, Tyrann Mathieu, Andre Howell. But then on the outsides, it's where it's weak. And they just can't seem to really, you know, get the group of guys to play together and to win cohesively and to have a great defensive performance like they were in years past. I don't really know what's up with that. I think Wade Phillips used to be their defensive coordinator, and now he is with, obviously, the Los Angeles Rams. And so, you know, they're a team, another team with a lot of good names, a lot of big-time names, guys like Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, and they seem to not be very, you know, defensively sound. But enough with that game. Moving on to the night game of the first day, which was Saturday, the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Dak did nothing to impress me like a lot. I've never really been a huge Dak Prescott guy, mainly because the media was, you know, always giving him praise and stuff like that. And it was really just because Zeke was so good that he could take so much of a load off of Dak. They would just play action to Zeke, or they would run Zeke, and then play action. They'd all commit to the run, and somebody would be wide open 15 yards downfield. And half the time Dak would hit him, half the time Dak wouldn't. And he's played better this year, I'd say, but he still isn't, to me, he's not an elite level quarterback. He's just a poor man's Cam Newton is really what he is. But, that was a game that I picked the Seahawks to win, but I could have seen that game going either way. It was a 50-50 ball, really. Flip of a coin type situation. That Seattle team was hot. They were playing good football. They had just beaten the Chiefs team, who had been arguably one of the top 5 teams. Well, not arguably, definitely one of the top 5 teams. Arguably the best team in football, at least in that stretch. They ran themselves into a hole. I know that their mantra was pound the ball, play physical offense, play physical defense, wear out the D-line, and then, we can pass and take advantage of stuff like that. But going into the fourth quarter, they had only thrown the ball 21 times. I felt like if they would have thrown the ball more, and if Brian Schottenheimer would have called better plays, at least in situations like, I get that you want to run the ball, but they were just being shut down by that Dallas front seven, and the run game just wasn't working. So if the run game isn't working, you kind of got to go away from it at some points, but they just rode it into the ground, and I think they rode it a little bit too far, and that's why they ended up losing that game. The Seahawks came back at the end. Russell Wilson was looking great, and I feel like if they would have implemented that a little bit in the third quarter, at least that style of offense, then they would have probably won that game. But 2-point game, I'm not really mad about that one. I'm more mad about the Bears game, but we'll get to that one later. Moving on to Sunday's games, the first game was the Ravens versus the Chargers, and I should have known better than to pick the Ravens. I was thinking, maybe he'll have some magic, maybe he'll pull something out of his hat. But the Ravens, again, like the Seahawks, put themselves in a hole because of their play calling. They weren't getting the type of push that they were getting against San Diego that they were in the first time that they met, and they weren't really setting anything up for Lamar Jackson. He was like 3 for 10. They'd only thrown the ball 10 times, but they kept running it, and they weren't successful running the ball, and they weren't giving it to Lamar on read options a lot. Like, they weren't, like, you could tell that things were being set up like a read option, like, I'm going to stare at Melvin Ingram, but he's going to take it, and Lamar was just giving it. There was no option to read it, and I felt like maybe if they would have, maybe if Lamar would have pulled a couple times, then maybe they could have made something out of it. But he played. There was a lot of people saying, maybe Joe Flacco should come in. John Harbaugh apparently discussed it on the sidelines with some of his coaches and Joe, but they decided Lamar's a quarterback in the future, so we're going to ride it out with Lamar. And he ended up doing actually pretty good, throwing 2 touchdowns to Michael Crabtree late in the game, making it a 1-possession game, but eventually they got the ball back with like 45 seconds left, no timeouts, and Uchenna Nwosu forced a fumble on Lamar Jackson. Melvin Ingram hopped on it, and the game was over. I should have known better than to pick the Ravens. I just felt like that their defense was going to be so superior to the Chargers offense. I don't know what it is about the Chargers offense. It's just I've never been a huge fan of them. Like, they put up 29 against the Chiefs, but that's against a Chiefs defense that averages, like, they give up like 30 a game. And then you go out against the Ravens defense, and the first time you put up 12, and the second time you barely put up 20, and you kick 5 field goals. Like, the offense wasn't efficient in terms of touchdowns, but they were putting them in good field position to kick field goals and stuff like that, which Michael Badgley did a very good job of that. He has too much faith in the Ravens defense and not enough trust that the Chargers were going to have a game plan coming out against that Ravens offense a second time and being able to beat them. Moving on to the second game on Sunday was the heartbreak of the weekend. The Chicago Bears lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 15-16, and the Nick Foles magic continues, even though he played a pretty bad game. He had like 2 interceptions. There probably could have been more interceptions. Like, he arguably could have thrown 4 in that game. The Eagles offense came through late on a 4th and 2, or a 4th and goal from the 2-yard line. They run like a sprint out play. Golden Tate runs a little bit of like a I'm faking like I'm blocking, and then like looking inside, and then he's going to break out. It was a very good route on a corner who hadn't played that much because Bryce Callahan was hurt. Maybe if Bryce Callahan was in that position, I think he could have made a play, probably knocked the ball away, and then the Bears eventually maybe would have won that game. Trubisky throws a dime down the middle of not down the middle of the field, to the side of the field to Allen Robinson. They run a couple plays, and then they loft one into the end zone that was just pretty much a time killer. And then they bring out Cody Parkey, could be the man of the hour, the man of Chicago that sends that team who hasn't been in the postseason in a while to the divisional round against the Los Angeles Rams. And he kicks the first field goal, but Doug Peterson iced him. He lines up for the second field goal. Apparently it got tipped by some dude. It was like this. Like the ball is coming here and his two fingers like that. Like the ball does that. Like it barely flicks his fingers. There's a clip of Sebastian Janikowski absolutely drilling like a 50-yard field goal after a Chiefs player's. It goes like that into a Chiefs player's hands. And it just like there's an audible sound. Cody Parkey misses the field goal. He showed a lot of humility and a lot of, I don't want to say self-respect, but he wasn't killing himself. He was like, you know, I know that I did the best I could. I know I prepared the best that I could and everything like that. But there were situations in that game from the Bears offense that they could have put up a touchdown or they could have kicked a field goal. They could have, you know, made more plays so that the game wouldn't have been as close as it was. But still, if you're in that situation, you have to do your job. And as a kicker, you have to do that job. He had hit 3 field goals already. This one just happened to get tipped. That's not why he missed it. He hit the upright, something that he had done 5 times before that game, 4 times in one game, and 1 time against the Vikings the week before. So you can prepare as much as you want, but if there's a trend in something, and Twitter was going crazy. Like OddsShark was tweeting like, what's the over/under for this hitting the field? Like, what's the odds that this field goal is hitting the upright, and a bunch of stuff like that. And people were calling it like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Parkey, you know, just absolutely bangs the upright right here. And he absolutely did. Chris Collinsworth called it a double doinker. It's a term that I've never heard a commentator use ever in my life. Probably because I've never seen a kick hit the crossbar and the upright, or the crossbar and the upright. But it still had a chance to go in. I thought that it bounced like in, and then it like swiveled back out like the Phil Dawson kick did back in, what year was that? I want to say it was 2000. I want to say 2000. I'm probably wrong. But anyways, I went 1 for 4 on my wild card picks. And my Super Bowl champion, who I picked to win in the wild card, the Chicago Bears, are now out of the playoffs. So I look like an idiot. Somebody needs to take away my football talking privileges. I mean, I still know what I'm talking about, but I just guess I had... the Bears defense to me is just so elite, and they're the only defense in the league that can give both the Rams and the Saints trouble, because we saw what they did to the Rams, and I feel like they could do the same thing to the Saints. But they are out of the playoffs now. The matchups for next week are going to be Colts and Chiefs in the divisional at Arrowhead. I'm really excited to watch that game. Chargers, Patriots at Foxborough, at Gillette, and then Saints versus the Cowboys, a rematch of a very intense but boring and awful game that was only like, it was like 6-10 or like 5-10, 7-10, something like that. Like in week 10 of the season. It was a long time ago. I don't remember the week. But that's going to be in the is that the Mercedes-Benz Dome? But that's going to be in New Orleans, a good game to tune into. And then the Rams and the Eagles, a rematch of a game where the Eagles blew out the Rams 31-13. These games are all going to be very, very good. Well, that's going to do it for me, guys. If you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe, especially for the face cam. It's my first time doing a face cam or like a video in front of a camera. I usually don't have any cameras on any of my videos or face cams or anything like that. So leave a like if you do enjoy this. Looking at my, my pretty mug, my pretty face. And probably by the time I'm uploading this, the national championship will be going on. So let me know who you guys have down in the comment section below if you have Alabama or if you have Clemson. I'm going to say Clemson mainly because I'm tired of seeing Alabama win, even though Clemson won a couple years ago. But I do like Clemson's defense. And Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine, has been slinging that rock. And I feel like he'll be able to do so and expose some of that Alabama secondary that's a little bit weaker than it has been in years past. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm TJ, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.